Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Keto Fit Weight Loss Coaching for Women. I am your coach, Jess. I help women lose weight with a keto diet and a self-care mindset. How are you all doing this week? It is the week between Christmas and New Year's. And I know it's a time of year when a lot of people can just be in like total F-it mode, off the rails. So I'd love to know how you're doing. And yeah, how did you navigate Christmas? How did you navigate Christmas Eve? Do you have any big plans for New Year's? Are you planning to deviate from keto? Are you still sticking with keto? I'm thinking of all of you, and I know it can be a really challenging time of year. And at the same time, I know that a lot of people are really looking forward to New Year's coming up and setting big goals. And usually one of those things is to make some changes to the way that you're eating. I know a lot of people around this time of year are probably really interested in either starting keto brand new, maybe you've never done it before, or maybe you did and you fell off, or even during the holidays, you had some deviations and you're ready to get back with it and stick with it for the long term. And today I'm going to be interviewing a really special guest. She's Bri Hershey. Make sure that you are following her on Instagram. She's at Bri, B-R-I _ Hershey, like the chocolate bar. And she's going to be joining us in just a couple of minutes here. But Bri is a high school teacher from Minnesota. She's just like a regular person like you and me. She's not like a keto coach or an influencer or anything like that, but she's got an amazing success story of losing 130 pounds on keto. And I've been following her for a while on Instagram, and I just love her whole energy. And she's got a really great following, and she's just here to serve other people along the journey with keto and try to help people however she can. So I wanted to have her on and interview her because I want you to get inspired by her story. And I also want you to be able to find some resources from her story as well. So, I mean, I don't see many crazier success stories than losing 130 pounds on keto. It's very dramatic. It's very awesome. So I'm really excited to interview her on all the things. But as we're waiting for her to join, I just wanted to give you guys a couple of quick announcements that if you are interested in starting a keto diet or recommitting yourself to a keto diet and you need something free resource today, I want to let you know that I have a free Keto Kickstart PDF that you can grab on my website today. It's theketofit.com/free guide. So hop on over there and join in. And Bri has just joined us, so I'm going to be pulling her up on stage. So yeah, go ahead and grab that free resource when you can. And at the end of today, I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit more information on some resources that you can get your hands on. But welcome, Bri.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for joining. I was so excited that you were able to take some time on your Christmas vacation as a teacher and spend some time with us here today. So, and I love the Christmas tree in the background. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course, of course.
So, catching you right after coming back from a cruise?
Yes, so went on a cruise right before Christmas Eve, which was super fun. It was kind of fun to go with my mom. It was actually a fun little story. I actually brought her because I was on a game show last year and I won. And
Wow.
she was actually able to go with me and be in the studio audience. And after I'd won the game show, I wanted to kind of like spoil her and kind of say thank you for like being there and supporting me. And so I told her I wanted to take her on a cruise. And so we went on a cruise.
That is so fun. So you did a cruise before Christmas, and then you did another cruise after Christmas.
I
Were
did.
both of them with Virgin? Did you do
They
Virgin for
were.
both?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so they had some really good deals going on because obviously it's a new cruise ship. It's kind of like a whole new brand. And so
Yeah.
because of that, they had some really good deals. So I booked the first one for Thanksgiving. And then when you're on the ship, they had a lot of deals of like, oh, book another one in, 2021. And like, here's an even better deal. And I was like, okay. So we were not really planning to do two, but it ended up being that way.
Nice. That's so cool. I know they always get you. If you guys are joining us live right now and you've ever been on a cruise, drop us a heart. I actually just went on a cruise as well. I went on a Disney cruise and they do like a special Maritime Christmas cruise. Have you ever done Disney?
No, it's my dream though. I used to work for Disney, so it's always been kind of like a goal to go on a Disney cruise, but those ones are luxury. They're expensive. So it's one of those ones I got to save for a little bit. It's not cheap, but they look amazing.
Yeah. Well, my husband is a Disney travel agent, and so he got like a deep discount because I think especially with COVID, not a lot of people have been cruising.
And
Yeah.
so I think they offered some really awesome discounts to their travel agents. But if you ever need help, my
Yeah.
husband can get you some good rates. But
Yes,
yeah, Disney is
definitely.
so much fun. And you used to be a cast member. What did you
Yes.
do?
I actually was doing the Disney College program, and I actually got to I worked as like a hostess in Crystal Palace in Magic Kingdom, and then I got to do some singing too, which was pretty cool.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
fun. What did you want to do with that?
Nothing.
Okay.
I just wanted to work at Disney. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and it just was
Yeah.
like a really random, like kind of in my college years, I just saw it pop
Yeah.
up through an email, and I was like, hey, this sounds fun. And so I essentially just went down there for like a fun kind of long vacation to work down there, and then came back home and became a teacher. So it didn't really do anything. It was just more
Yeah.
for the fun of it.
That is really fun. Okay, who's your favorite Disney princess?
Oh gosh, I would have to probably go with the classic of like Cinderella, but if we're talking like
Uh-huh.
movies, then it would be like Pocahontas or Mulan.
Ooh, good choices. Good
Mhm.
choices. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Elsa. Like
Oh, that's good.
she's the most complicated character. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm like, yep, I feel you, Elsa. Yeah.
yeah, that's great.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm so excited, and I'm already getting to know you better.
Yeah.
But would you just take a couple of minutes and share with us a little bit more about your story of how you discovered keto and how much it's transformed your life?
Yeah, so I actually I kind of started with like a low carb. I had gone on this was back in like the summer of 2015. I'd gone
Okay.
on a vacation, and when I got back I saw all the pictures of myself because before
Mhm.
that like I was heavy my whole life, but I always
Yeah.
just took like face photos because I always was like I like my face, I like my hair, like so I just never did full body. I would hide behind people,
Mhm.
which stinks now because I don't have a lot of before pictures to show just because I did hide my body a lot. And so on that vacation, I saw like full body photos after, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is how I look. And it just kind of was like a realization of like, if I don't do it now, when will I, And
Mhm.
I was always putting it off. So I kind of just right away just kind of clicked, and I was like, okay, this is it. We're done. We need to get this under control. So I started doing low carb. And actually, when I was doing low carb, I noticed that the days I would have a little more fat. So, like, I would have BLTs almost like once a week in just like a lettuce wrap. And I would have a lot of
Mhm.
bacon. And I always noticed that the scale would drop the day after. And it took me a while to realize why that was. But I was like, oh, okay, maybe my body just loves bacon. Like, cool, bacon, you
Yeah.
lose weight. Like, what? Like, who cares?
Bacon is
Awesome.
magic. Thank you, bacon.
Yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So it kind of took me a while to realize that it was actually by increasing just fat in general, that was what was happening. Because I think I was already in somewhat of a state of ketosis, just doing low carb in general. It wasn't really on purpose. And so then I kind of dabbled in keto and low carb because my body honestly stays in ketosis even when I go up to like 50 grams of carbs a day.
Mhm.
I don't have to do too much of a strict keto for my body. So I kind of stayed around 50 carbs when I was losing weight. And now that I'm in maintenance, I kind of stick around like 100 carbs and try and just stick to, carbs I actually need versus just like adding bread to everything and things like that.
Right.
So I would say I'm more of like a low carb, but I love to use like keto recipes, and I'm constantly looking up like different keto things just because, I'm always kind of doing well. The more fat I add, obviously the fuller I am, and it helps me
Yeah.
stay into that low carb. So I don't know. Some people say it's like the lazy keto. So maybe that's kind of what I would call it, is like a lazy keto.
Yeah. How do you feel about that term?
I mean, it's weird because it sounds like I'm lazy, but I'm not. It's like
Yeah. Right.
I tried the full keto, like really, really strict, and
Mhm.
I was okay with it. I didn't see like me losing more weight. I felt like I was still just kind of losing the same amount as I was before. And it was
Mhm.
honestly just really strict for my lifestyle. Like it was just really hard. And I felt like it was really restrictive. And I
Yeah.
just didn't, I don't know. I tried it, but it was so hard to stay on it. And I realized when I was too restrictive for myself, I'm like an all or nothing. And I would like all of a sudden I make one mistake and I'd be like, screw it. I'm going to go eat a donut, So
Mhm.
I realized that having that balance was a little bit better for me
Right.
personally than trying to be so strict.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I love what you're saying because, my thing is like I help women lose weight with a keto diet and a self-care mindset. And
Mhm.
so for some people, like I think it really depends on your personality type, and you are the expert on you. And so
Yeah.
often we surrender ourselves and just like, no, I have to follow this exactly as these people say that I'm supposed to do it. And, you know, I have to eat clean keto. I have to do it perfectly because I don't want to do lazy keto. I don't want to do dirty keto. Like, oh my God, you know, so like, let me just like forget about what I know about myself and just follow all the rules. But when we do that, we're not enjoying it. And then we wind up self-sabotaging, like you mentioned. So it's so important. And like, obviously you stuck with this for quite a long time to be able to see the progress that you have. So like, that's probably one of like the secrets to the secret sauce, right? Like you have to find a way to make it enjoyable in order for you to stick with it long term.
Yeah, you'll get the keto police for sure, like, you know, being like, oh no, this isn't keto, or don't do this. And I'm like, guys, I'm not full keto. Like this is what works for me. And of course, like you got to use what works for you. Like I'm not here to say like, here is the diet plan, do it and you'll lose weight. It's like every diet works as long as you stay consistent with it, you know, and you got to find what works for you. Like some people do so much better with, you know, Atkins, and some people do so much better with like a high carb, low fat. Like if that's what works for your lifestyle, go for it. Like I'm not going to tell you no, you just got to find what works. And if you can stay consistent on it, then like awesome.
Yes, you're absolutely right that consistency is the name of the game. And so, yeah, you have to find what works for you. There are a ton of keto police, and like that's one thing that honestly just drives me crazy more than anything about being in the keto space is like how dogmatic people become about it. And like it's almost like politics and religion, like diet has become like diet wars, and like it's just like you're wrong and you're leading people astray and demonizing other people's ways of eating. But you're so right, the diet that works is that's so awesome. Shannon's saying how proud she is of how far you've come.
She saw me like literally like at my heaviest and has seen me at my lowest, so she's kind of seen all the way because I've been friends with her for like 7 years.
That's so cool. Shannon is a good friend.
Love you, Shannon.
So yeah, it's just so important to find what works for you and to not look at things as morally right or morally wrong or any kind of a dogmatic approach, but just find what works for you and what is self-care for you. You know, a lot of people have a hard time navigating the holidays. So, you know, like, because they think like, well, it's all or nothing. I'm either going to be on my diet or off my diet, but it's so not about that. It's like, I tell people like sometimes like eating completely on plan could be self-care for you. And for some people, it might be eating some sugar this time of year could be self-care for you. And it's like, some people might be like, oh, no, like sugar is evil. It's horrible. It's bad. It's inflammatory, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, I have a little bit of sugar over the holidays and I'm fine. I'm not dead. My body is healthy. You know, like, it's okay. Like, and if it's helping you to adhere to your goals long-term, that's what it's really all about, because it's the people that stick with it that are actually going to get to where they want to be. So you mentioned that you had struggled with weight pretty much your whole life. So what are some of the things that you tried before low carb that just didn't work for you, or maybe even did work for you? And tell us a little bit about, like, you mentioned your whole life, but like, when did you first start to actually feel uncomfortable with your weight? What was that journey like for you? What type of messages do you feel like you internalized regarding your weight and body image?
Yeah, so I feel like I've tried everything, you know, tried Slim Fast, they used to have it called LA Weight Loss, tried MetaFast, tried, Atkins, the South Beach diet, like, I mean, pretty much everything practically. But what I realized for me is that I would try it and it would work. Like, I mean, every diet pretty much worked on me, but it would work for about a month. And then I'd start to get kind of bored, or like life would come in. I felt like I just was never fully invested. And like, I think all of those could have worked, but growing up, I just never was like, oh yeah, like if I'm with friends, I'm not going to eat the Rice Krispie bar that they're eating. Like I would always still do that. So I felt like it was just constant yo-yo. Like I could never stay consistent on anything. And so I probably noticed that, like, I would say it was honestly middle school was kind of when I started to notice, like, I didn't look the way that everybody else did. And that was honestly when I went on like my first diet, which is like so young, but I was surrounded by it. Like all my friends were thinner. So like, how could I, you know, look like them and be active like them and that kind of thing. So I was always I felt like on diets growing up, like on and off and on and off and on and off. And my parents were so wonderful that they would like buy me anything I needed. You know, you want to try this one? Okay, we'll invest in this. But I don't know, I just felt like I was never fully invested until I was an adult. And I think I was 24 or 25 when I finally did the low carb thing. And I mean, it really was like something snapped. Like I felt like I finally just was like, okay, this is my lowest point. Like if I keep going like this, I'll never get it back. So like I'm already heavier than I ever wanted to be. So if I don't stop now, like then what? And like I felt like I was always like waiting for my life to start. And I always just kind of kept pushing it back. And, you know, I didn't always jump on every opportunity because I felt like my weight would hold me back. So finally it was like, you know, I'm almost 25, or I think I might have been 25. It was like finally, you know, time to do something. And so, you know, you really kind of have to hit that rock bottom, I feel, if you're trying to lose that amount of weight. Now, some people might only need to lose 20, 30 pounds and they can do it in a couple months. But I know for me, I was like, I got to lose 100 pounds. So like for me to do this, this is going to take a while. And it did. It took over a year. It was like 15 months, I think. And then I still went up and down a little bit, like within maintenance. You know, I always allowed myself to go up about like 15 to 20 pounds. Sometimes I wouldn't go up that high, but I always kind of, especially during like the holidays, like I wanted to be able to have fun with friends and family and not be able to like deprive myself too much. So I would let myself kind of indulge. And then when January hit, I would get back kind of on my keto low carb, and then I'd swing down, and then the holidays would come. And so I kind of did that for the last couple of years. And I never really let myself go too much more than 20 pounds. That was always kind of my like anchor of like, I felt like if I hit that, I'd be like, okay, it's okay. Like I can lose 20 pounds. That's okay. But I always felt if I let it go too far, like 30 or 40, that's when I would probably be like, oh, now it's too hard. And, oh, it just seems so far away. And so I kind of know myself, and that I couldn't let that goal get too far, but I could let it get a little bit just to indulge a little. But yeah, so I mean, it was kind of my whole life kind of going up and down and trying everything. And, you know, it just happened to be that low carb seemed to work when I hit that breaking point. And it was really just how I realized that it worked for me was actually tracking my macros. I downloaded my Fitness Pal, you know, the app. And so I kind of just started tracking everything I ate, whether it was like carbs or not. And then I started to kind of realize like, okay, I feel better and I'm doing better the lower my carbs are. And so it was actually just kind of this whole like me realizing it. I didn't really have like a guide or anything to really like push me. I just kind of felt, what did my body feel good with? What was I seeing results with? And that's kind of where I landed, was low carb.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So how much have you gotten into kind of like the nerdy stuff of like the science of low carb? Did you ever like delve into that? Or are you just like, nope, just works for me. I don't really care how it works. Like tell me more about your personality and how that journey's been for you.
Yeah, so I definitely have done the nerdy side for sure. Being a teacher, like I'm all about like, I need to know all information, all sides. I want to see the good. I want to see the bad. I want to hear both sides of the argument. And that helps too, because like I have come across people in my own life that are like, no, I don't know if you should do that. Like keto's bad. Like I've heard bad things. I'm kind of like, well, like no offense, but like I'm doing great on it. And like the science I've read has been good. And I do still have naysayers nowadays. Like even after I've kept off the weight for 5 years, I still have people that will come and be like, I don't know if that's healthy. And I'm just kind of like, okay, well, no offense, but like I'm kind of a living, breathing person that it's working for. So like, you know, it's hard for me. I just listen to them and I'm like, that's fine. If it doesn't work for you, that's totally fine, but it does work for me. So, you know, I did get into kind of the science of it. And like, what really helped me was understanding that if I am hungry on a low carb, that adding fat really, really like is beneficial. Cause you know, we're so used to growing up and thinking fat is like, everything needs to be low fat, don't have fat, fat's bad, blah, blah, blah. And so it did take me a while to really understand and really read and understand how our body can thrive off fat. And, you know, it's actually can be good, you know, like healthy fats, and it helps me to stay full. So, you know, I do feel like I need to be on somewhat of a calorie deficit when I'm losing weight, and adding that fat in helps. Like it keeps me full. I mean, that's literally what it does. And so, you know, adding extra fats in my diet seemed weird at first, and it kind of threw me, but now I understand kind of why. And, you know, those days I don't have to eat as much, or I can, you know, do intermittent fasting longer, or whatever it may be. So it definitely, the science was interesting, and I still read about it and I still learn more and more, because obviously the science is getting better and better, you know, than even 5 years ago when I looked into it. And, You know, I even have some of my doctors, like, who used to kind of not be for it. Like, I was talking to one the other day and he's like, oh yeah, like me and my family are actually going to try that. And I was like, wow, because 5 years ago you told me that that was bad. So, okay, like, glad to see that it's starting to turn and people are starting to accept it more. And it's no longer this like crazy faux pas.
Yeah, totally. It is really good to see the public opinion changing. I started eating keto in November of 2013. So just maybe like a year or so before you. And, you know, at that time, I feel like it was probably more like 2014. It started becoming more acceptable, but like just literally probably in the past 2 to 3 years, it has like exploded. I'm pretty sure like 2018, it was like keto was the #1 diet of the year or whatever. Like everybody at that point started hearing about it and it became more mainstream. So you were mentioning earlier that like you kind of have like this zone of where you feel comfortable with your weight, and you kind of like will range between like 15 to 20 pounds. And then once you reach 20 pounds, you know, like, okay, this is my cutoff. And then, you know, I'm going to get back. Now it's time to like go back into weight loss mode. And what's interesting about that, I like that you're pointing that out, because I think that a lot of people have this idea about maintenance that is just like, once I see that number on the scale, I'm just going to be that number forever and my life will be perfect. Like, you know,
I wish.
So yeah. And like, that's just not the reality. And like, so it could feel a little bit maybe like discouraging probably for some people, because like, I think some people tend to have the idea of like, well, I'm just going to have to work forever and ever and ever at weight. Right. And like, in a way that's kind of true. Like, maintaining your weight is actually the art of gaining and losing weight for the rest of your life, like within a zone that you feel comfortable with. So you've identified 20 pounds, you know, for some people it might be 10 pounds, for some people it might be 5 pounds. Hopefully no less than that, because we don't want to be too crazy with ourselves. But basically like once you see the upper limit of where you feel comfortable with, then you would then have the tools and the skills to go right back to what you know is working for you. Right.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about like, maybe for some people though, who like are like, I don't want to just lose weight for the rest of my life. Why should I even care? Like, I'm just going to like live my life or whatever. Like, what would you say to people who might be like feeling discouraged by that idea of like, oh man, I might gain 20 pounds again and I'm going to have to work to lose it again? Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends. I mean, you got to find the number that works for you. 20 always kind of worked for me. I mean, maybe eventually I can get it down to like 10, but I love to travel. And like, I just went on 2 cruises in the last month. And like, although I was able to eat very healthy on the cruises, I still had dessert with every meal. Like I was going I wanted to try every single thing. And so I wanted to be able to try those things and not be like, oh, I'm on a diet on a cruise. Like that just doesn't work. So, you know, I think it's important to know that you got to live your life and you'll be able to live your life. Like I do feel like there is somewhat of an end point when you're losing weight. Like I had that goal of like, okay, I made that goal. But then I feel like once you hit that end point, you really want to just all of a sudden now eat crap again and feel like crap again. No, like you want to be able to indulge a little, but you also want to keep that weight. And I think for me, it was just always that kind of like, you know, that 80-20 method of 80% of the time I want to eat healthy. And then, you know, if I want to have something extra on the weekends or whatever, I can. Like, I'm not going to say no to myself, but I also know that within range, like I shouldn't just be going on like a binge or something or eating crazy. And so, you know, you are kind of on this up and down the rest of your life, but it's only a few pounds and I don't have to keep rebuying new clothes all the time. That's been huge. Like, you know, I don't have like my fat jeans anymore or my skinny jeans. It's like I only have those skinny jeans and they fit me with that 10 pounds I fluctuate. So, you know, save money there. But it is kind of that constant learning. And, you know, even 5 years later, I'm still learning new ideas and tips and tricks. And, you know, it's just a lifelong learner. And it's something that, you know, I'll still have to battle probably, you know, the rest of my life, just because like, you know, obesity is hard and it's something that I grew up with. So, you know, have more of a tendency to eat bad. And, you know, it's hard in today's day. There's so many amazing foods out there. So, you know, it's trying to really pick the right things, but also make them taste good. So I don't feel like I'm, you know, depriving myself. So, you know, it is a battle the rest of your life. It is. But, you know, it's kind of like that saying people say, choose your hard, you know, being bigger is hard. Being thin is hard. There is no easy way just out in general. So choose your hard. And for me, I'd rather, choose the hard of living a healthy lifestyle and being able to kind of keep the weight that I want and I feel content at. And, it's always going to be worth it. Yeah, it's hard, but it's always worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So it's interesting because, I don't know if you've ever thought about this before, but like, I tend to think of weight loss as like a skill that you can gain. Like, and once you gain the skill of losing weight, like you found what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like a tool and a skill that you have. And so whether you gain weight or whether you lose weight, you will never lose that skill. You've now gained that forever for the rest of your life, and nobody can take that away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get to a point where you're just like, okay, I'm ready to, I've reached my upper limit, like, boom, you just pull out your skill that you have now acquired over the last, what has it been, 6 years, 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got a great skill set at losing weight. And so that's so beautiful that nobody can take that away from you, first of all. But like, if you had to describe for you what the skill of weight loss is, like whether it's strategies or whether it's even just like mindset shifts that you've had to make, how would you describe that skill to other people?
Definitely mindset. I mean, the biggest thing is the mental, for sure, with weight loss. It's honestly like conquering the mental. And I feel like it's that for, most challenges or goals you set forth for yourself, it's always mental. Physical stuff, it can be tough, you can be draining. But if you ask a runner, they'll always say the hardest thing is the mental, like pushing past things. And I feel like weight loss is the same thing. And so if you can push past that, that's the biggest thing. And I also think it is setting up with strategies. So like for me, this week is actually the week that I'm getting back to my normal eating. So I've decided that like, I know I could wait until after the new year, but I decided I'm like, I'm kind of creeping up on that like 15, 20 pound mark. So instead of just like waiting a week, let's just do it this week. Cause I don't really have any plans this weekend that are going to like push me back from like eating healthy. So like, I don't need to just like make up an excuse in my mind. Like it's time, So I essentially like yesterday, I got rid of as much crap in my house as I could, bad foods. I packed it up. Like I can give it to family or friends that might want it. But I essentially did all my grocery shopping, making sure I have healthy options so that I'm set up for success this week. That's the biggest thing for me because I am a snacker. And so I know myself. If I go open up that pantry and there's a lot of snacks, I'm eating Cheetos, I'm eating chocolate, like all that. So I just got rid of all that. So now when I open it up, it's like literally only like keto snacks, like keto crackers. If I really need to snack, I can do that. Or maybe it's time for me to eat some protein. Maybe I need like actually lunch or something. Yeah. So for me, it's really just making sure there's nothing in my house because I know myself. I'm pretty lazy. I'm not going to go drive to like a drive-in, McDonald's across the street. I know that like if I have it in the house, I'll grab it. But if I don't, I'm good. So that's kind of a strategy I know for myself is get rid of all the bad foods because then I know that the times that I get kind of lazy and I want to grab something that's not there. And then also tracking, even though I'm pretty good on tracking just in my brain from all these years. When I first start back on eating healthy, I track again and I track every single thing, just even if it's only for a week or two, but it kind of just gets me back into the groove of like, oh yeah, like I should probably add this because, it's been a couple months since I've tracked. So, those are the strategies that work for me. Get the crap out of my house and track things again and just kind of, mentally be all in. Like I'm not going to eat bad foods. And like, I'm going to go hang out with my boyfriend and his family later. And, if they want to continue to eat bad stuff because it's the holidays, like, of course, go for it. They can. I just know I'm going to set myself up for success. I'll bring whatever I need, and try to make healthy options there. Like, I'm not going to make that excuse of just because I'm around people, because I definitely can be a social eater. So I'm trying very hard not to do that and to try and, stick with what, I've set forth of my goal of to lose those 15 pounds and, get back into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing what works for you. Definitely like setting up your environment for success is such an important strategy. And that might look different for different people, but yeah, totally. Like if it's in front of your face, like you're going to be thinking about it, right? Like if it wasn't there, you might not think about it at all. But if it's just sitting in your house, like cookies on the counter, every time you walk past it, you have to fight the urge to like, mentally talk yourself off that ledge. It's just so much easier to have it out of your house. So what about for people who maybe like live with others who eat differently, who do want to have the Cheetos in the house or whatever, like what kind of advice would you give? I'm sure there's a wide array of people listening in right now, moms, families, yada, yada. Like, how do you think that people could design their environment for success if they maybe can't get all the crap out of their house?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I first lost weight, I was living with my parents. So, and I lived with them, I think through the entire portion, 15 months where I lost weight, to be honest. I think I might have lived on my own for a couple months of that, but I was around them and they were not on a diet. And I was not going to tell them that they had to change their lives because they hadn't made that same choice as me. And that's fine. They didn't need to. That wasn't on them to do the same thing. So we essentially kind of came up with a system of like, there was above the microwave was kind of like the naughty area, I would say, where that is where the stuff that I would stay kind of away from. And so I had to like make that decision with myself of that I was not going to go up there. And it was that mental decision of just not going to open it. I don't need to know what's up there. And they were very respectful too when I first started. Like they would try not to eat those in front of me. Finally, I told them like, it's okay. Like it's good for my mental, like to see you eat a bowl of Cheetos and I'm not going to have it because I'm so happy with where I'm at that I'm not going to ruin it. But it did take me a while to get there. And they were trying to be really like respectful, like they eat it in the other room. But then I was like, I don't want you to be a closet eater. Like I'm not trying to make you into something, worse. Like it's okay. Like, and so I essentially just tried to stay away from those areas and try to kind of, fill my body with a lot of protein and a lot of fat so that I would be really full so that when I'd see them eat something like that, I was honestly not hungry. Like I honestly was just like, no, I'm actually really full from dinner. So this is a great time for you to eat that piece of pie because I couldn't even eat it if I wanted. And so, it was being around people and it was that mental and just trying to make sure that they kept everything into one area. And that worked for me, just kind of staying out of that area. Obviously living alone is much easier now. But I definitely didn't live alone when I lost the weight.
Yeah. That's such a good strategy. And a lot of my clients, do live with other people as well. So that's a really good strategy that you use. As long as like, if you could get it behind closed doors so that you're not seeing it, then that's helpful. And a lot of my clients too, like if they have a pantry or like the refrigerator, they'll just move all of the stuff that they want to focus on eating to like the front and center of their attention. So it'll be like the shelf that's at eye level or whatever. So as much as you can get it out of sight and put the stuff in front of you that you want to, you also used another good strategy that I would call the crowding out method, which is that you basically ate to satiety of protein and fat so that you basically crowded out the desire for eating something that you didn't want to eat. And so that's another really fantastic strategy. A lot of times people, they think that to lose weight that you have to restrict yourself so much, right? But like, honestly, the best strategy for weight loss is appetite suppression. And so like, if you're filling yourself up with protein, and as you mentioned, like fat was like a huge game changer for you. Like if your appetite is suppressed, then you're not going to want to eat. But because we restrict ourselves so much, that's when we wind up, just binging and eating a bunch of stuff that is not filling you up whatsoever. Yeah, that's great. So kind of like this whole topic of mindset, because I asked you like, the skill of weight loss, like, and you were like, yeah, totally mindset. Like, what are some of the limiting beliefs that you used to hold about yourself surrounding like weight and weight loss that you believed about yourself that you think really held you back? And then how did you move through those limiting beliefs?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one I can think of was I had to be perfect. So if I would get through my whole day eating super well, doing well, I would work out. I mean, I was in lots of sports growing up. And then all of a sudden at night, I was such a nighttime snacker. It could be like 10 o'clock at night and I'd have a bowl of Cheetos. And then to me, it was like, okay, my whole day is ruined. So I might as well go eat this and this and this. And who cares, and then I'll start tomorrow. Like it was always that all or nothing throughout the day. And it was always that I ruined it usually towards the end of the day, which was kind of the worst part. Or else even when I started drinking coffee, I drink like a fancy drink in the morning. And then I was like, well, I already drink much sugar. So like, who cares? Like, I'll just keep eating crap then. Like, this is the day I should, order Jimmy John's and I should do this, whatever. So it really took me a while. And actually it was when I started tracking my macros and tracking on the app. One time I remember like specifically, I think it was that I had a donut, which sounds so random, but I had a donut somewhere and I actually decided I'm going to put it in my tracker. Like, I don't even know what a donut is. I literally put it in and it was only like 11 grams of carbs and sugar, and it was like 160 calories. And it kind of like hit me like, wait, like I'm actually still within my stuff for the day. Like, hold up. Like, I don't need to just throw it all away. Like, maybe if I do screw up, I just keep going and I just keep that in count. And that was honestly kind of like the changing moment for me too, that it's not this all or nothing. So, you know, if I am going to eat something bad, which I try not to, I honestly put it into my macros and see like, okay, yeah, like now I just need to keep that in mind for later. And like, I don't want to do this every day, but if it happens that way, like I'm not just going to say screw it and eat bad. Like that was a huge thing. It's not all or nothing. You can honestly eat donuts if you really want it on keto. Just fit it into stuff. Like, I mean, not saying you should, but if that was really something that like you were about to throw it all away for, it's like, no, like just track it in your stuff and then, you know, move on. Next day, try and do better. But like, you don't have to just give up.
Yes, that's so good. And that's something that I see with my clients all the time is like this perfectionism, this all or nothing. And then as soon as you made one deviation from your original plan, you're like, well, the whole day's crap. Might as well just, and now I want to make the most of it, like make it horrible, you know, compared to what it was before. So I love that you're saying like, just log it. And this is something that I tell my clients as well, because a lot of times, like if they do have a deviation, they don't want to log it. And then they'll just like their log will just be empty that day. And I'm like,
totally,
you know, like
totally. I 100% done that. It's like, I don't want to admit it. Like, if I log it, I'm admitting I did it. And it's like, finally now I'm kind of at the point of like, it's okay. Like this is a journey. Like it really is. It's hard to accept that when you're starting to lose weight, that it really is a journey and you're not going to be perfect. And like, you know, I still look at that. Like, I'm not going to be perfect on it. I'm going to do the best I can. And so it takes me a couple extra weeks to lose the weight. Who cares? I'm still going to get there. If I all of a sudden stop right now, I will not get there. So just keep going.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the beautiful things about logging as well is that it just is, it's no longer hiding. And that's something that we do is we hide and we just go into a shame spiral, right? But as soon as you come face to face with it, then now at least you're looking at reality. And then you can try to wrap your arms around yourself and say, it's okay. I still love and accept myself. This is not that big of a deal. It's just food. It's just data. Pick up right from here. Like, and I always tell my clients too, like it takes 72 hours to get into ketosis. You could start right now at this hour and be back in ketosis. And some people get in much faster. It depends upon how long you've been doing this or whatever. But let's just say like, you don't have to wait until tomorrow morning to start the 72-hour countdown. You could start after you just had that donut at 8 a.m. and still start. And like, also, I love that you mentioned before, like you weren't even, you know, at a certain point you were trying to actually be strategic and be in ketosis and eat like 50 grams of carbs per day. Most of my clients, I start them around 50 grams of carbs per day. But just remember, a low carb diet actually is anything around 130 grams or less per day. So just because, let's just say that you did eat something that was, you know, a deviation from your plan, you can still have a low carb day. You don't have to have a high carb day. You don't have to have a 400 carb day just because you ate 55 carbs today. You know, like, it's such a funny thought error that we have, but like we all do it, right? We all get into that like, oh, I have to be perfect, but it's so not true. You can make progress. It's like progress over perfection, the little thing that they say, you know, like, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can you think of any other kind of like thought errors or like silly things that like, you're like, it's so crazy that I used to believe this, but like I did, and this is how I overcame it?
I think also too, I just always thought that like there must be one perfect diet and the rest just didn't work. And it took me a while to really realize that almost any diet works if you really just stick with it. I think that's the biggest thing that I would say is, you know, if you find one that you enjoy, that's half the battle right there. And then just keep going. Like, don't give up. And it's okay if it takes longer. Like, I mean, who are you trying to beat? Like, I wasn't trying to beat anyone and lose weight. I was really just trying to be competitive with myself to do it because I really wanted to prove to myself that I could achieve this goal. But, you know, anything you do, just keep going. Like, there isn't, I don't know. I feel like we're always kind of like, what's the best, the newest? This one must work better than all the other ones. And I'm like, I don't think so. I just think that when you find one that you like and you enjoy, stick with it. Like, just stick with it. That's the main thing. Every diet can work. You got to find the one that you actually like because it is a lifestyle. It is something that you should hopefully keep forever. And, I probably will be on like somewhat of a low carb lifestyle the rest of my life. And it doesn't mean that I'll never eat pasta again, but I'm not going to eat pasta every day. I don't need to eat pasta every day. I don't think that's healthy for anyone. So it's just kind of finding like what kind of rotation works, what kind of cycle works for me, and then whatever works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I agree. I think that whatever diet you stick with, like in the long run, is the one that's going to be best for you. But there are different pros and cons and benefits of rewards to different types of things. So, for example, somebody who's eating high carb and low fat, they're going to be able to eat very different foods than somebody who's low carb and high fat. So it's like, if you want bacon to be on the table, you should probably consider eating high fat and low carb and think about like, whoa, you get to eat all of the meat that you want, and including the fat, like chicken wings, bacon, avocado, like nuts, seeds, like nut butters, all of these things, like heavy cream, like, yeah, if that's your jam. But then like, yeah, you're not gonna be eating pasta, you're not gonna be eating rice, you're not gonna be eating granola, you're not gonna be eating bananas, like whatever it is, like it's always a trade-off. So I think that basically the only diet, in my opinion, the only diet that is definitely not going to work for you, well, we call it would be considered a diet in the sense that it's a way of eating, is if you're eating high carb and high fat at the same time, which is essentially the standard American diet. But when we say diet, we're usually referring to like an intentionally healthy diet.
Right.
So but I don't think anybody is like out there saying like, yeah, I'm going to eat a standard American diet. And that's going to be my strategy. Right. Some people probably maybe just counting calories, but it is kind of important. I would say generally prioritize protein. Everybody should be getting enough protein. You need those amino acids. And then you can actually kind of choose, like, am I going to get my protein in and then eat high carb and low fat? A lot of people do this and they find great success on it. Or am I going to eat high fat and low carb? For me, and probably for you as well, the benefit, and somebody asked this question a couple back, like, aside from the weight loss, what has been the benefits for you of eating low carb as opposed to other diets? And I would say for me, and it sounds like for you too, it was the satiety, meaning like you feel full, you feel satisfied, and it gave me food freedom. Like I stopped obsessing over food. Like when I was eating high carb, I would eat dinner, like a plate of pasta with basically like no protein and no fat. And then an hour later, I would want to eat pretzels and then ice cream and then chips. And then like, so sweet, salty, sweet, salty. And I would do that the whole night. And then I would be bloated and distended. And I would say, I'm going to do better tomorrow. And then I would probably starve myself the whole day and then do the same thing again at dinner time. And that was my life prior to low carb. So I'm going to toss this question out to you. What have been some of the benefits apart from the weight loss? What have been the benefits for you, like non-scale victories of using low carb as opposed to the other previous diets that you had tried?
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely the not being hungry constantly. I'm definitely someone that, like, I feel like loves to snack. That was always my biggest thing, is like, I don't even care about real meals. Like I would love to just snack every 2 hours. Like that would have been ideal. And so kind of finding, having more fat in my diet and actually being full longer made me not want to snack. And it made me actually be able to kind of wait and actually have like one big meal, and then all of a sudden I'd be full for like 4 or 5 hours. And that kind of was like new to me, where I was like, I actually like don't really want to eat right now. Like I'm not really hungry. And I kind of would forget to eat almost, which was a totally new thing of like, just honestly like, oh my gosh, it's been 5 hours. I probably should eat. Like I haven't had anything. And, it kind of was just this like, oh, okay. And then once I started, I would really stopped craving sugars. I stopped craving carbs, and I really just kind of learned really like fun ways to kind of like, use palmini noodles instead of regular noodles, or like I would do everything in lettuce wraps. And I started to just kind of find new ways, and then I would get kind of excited the more I would find. And, I was always full. I mean, that's definitely one of the biggest thing is, when you're on any kind of calorie deficit diet, usually you're hungry all the time. Like I've been there, like on so many diets, I'm hungry all the time. And it was always this mental of like, oh, I'm hungry, but I can't eat anymore. Versus like this one, it's like, if that's the case, I really could make like a fat bomb, which I don't do very often, but I have before, where I'll have one and then I'm completely full. And like, I was able to stay full longer by just adding a little more fat to my diet. And I never had to go too crazy on the fat like some people do on keto. I didn't need it, but I was able to do enough where I am full and I'm able to, stay kind of consistent, which is, a blessing for sure.
Yeah, totally. That was one of the biggest changes for me is that if I was hungry, I could eat more of something that just didn't have carbs. Like, and so a lot of times my clients will be like, I hit my carb limit for the day, but I'm still hungry. What should I eat? I'm like, eat protein. Go grab some pepperoni and cheese, make some scrambled eggs. You can make that in 3 minutes. And like, but I remember the pain of like calorie counting and like blowing through my calories by noon and then thinking, crap, I'm either going to just not eat from now until tomorrow, which when you're eating high carb, oh, that's miserable. You know, like it's not like you have any satiety and you just have to willpower and be miserable the whole rest of the day to feel like you're succeeding. Or I'm just going to go into like effort mode, right? And of course I would always choose that and just like feel like a failure and be in a shame spiral the whole rest of the day. Because when you're counting calories, well, okay, you've hit your calorie limit for the day. It's time to stop eating now. But when you're just paying attention to your carbs and, you know, feeling full, like you can always eat something. That was the most beautiful thing to me. I was like, seriously, I can still eat. Like, okay, wonderful. I'm going to go like have a steak. Like, great. Okay. Sounds amazing. Yeah. So, to answer Ty's question from a couple back, like, I don't know about for you, but I'll share for me and then maybe it'll like spur some for you. But like my skin completely cleared up. I used to get like acne at least every month, especially around my period. So my skin cleared up. I used to have painful PMS before my period all the time. I don't have any PMS. I don't get cramps, guys. My breasts aren't sore, like nothing. Like it's almost just like, I mean, I know when it's coming usually like mentally and because I track it and everything, but like I'm not uncomfortable as a result of it, which is incredible for me. I used to be like on the migraines. I used to get migraines all the time. They completely disappeared. Like I used to like basically have Excedrin, you know, probably several times a week and like wake up with migraines. It was all hormonal and like keto just totally balanced out my hormones. My digestion completely cleared up. I used to be bloated after every single meal and I thought it was because I ate too much. I didn't eat too much. It was just like gluten, right? Like I was probably just so sensitive to gluten and I didn't realize it because, you know, nobody diagnosed me with anything. And I don't think I had like celiac or whatever, but it's a spectrum, guys. Like a lot of us are just sensitive to carbs and gluten and things like that. So yeah, those are just some for me. What about for you? Have you thought of anything else?
Yeah, I would say the inflammation for sure. Like I would get super bloated and my stomach would hurt all the time. Like even as a little kid, I remember like when I was in kindergarten, I used to have to go sit in the nurse's office all the time. And I, again, don't really have a lot of like food allergies or anything, but I do think it might be a gluten thing because my mom is sensitive to gluten and I think my brother is as well. So I probably have some, but I can definitely tell when I eat carbs, I don't feel good. Like I've always been that way. I feel very lethargic. I feel very like it doesn't even matter if I eat a ton or just a little. I don't feel good. So I've definitely felt better. Also too, my hair, like I have pretty long hair, obviously, like it's, you know, pretty low. It's almost to my lower back, but I've always had long hair, but I definitely feel like the last couple of years it's been healthier. It's shinier. It's growing like quicker. Like I've always wanted to grow it to my lower back, but it always kind of stopped at a certain length. And I feel like the last like 2 years, especially, it's actually growing. And I'm like, oh, dang, like, okay, this is amazing. And, you know, even my mom the other day was like, your hair is growing so long. Like, are you taking new vitamins? And I'm like, no, I think I've just been really trying to like, you know, eat healthier. I mean, I have been for 5 years, but I've been extremely, especially over the summer, I was very, very, like consistent with it because I really wanted to hit like my final goal weight because I was always kind of would get close, but I never actually fully hit it. So this summer I kind of made like okay, I'm going to be extremely healthy and like stick to it. Like I'm not going to make excuses. And I feel like then my hair actually got better, which is funny because I've talked to some people who, you know, are doing like a calorie deficit or doing other diets and they're like, my hair is starting to fall out. Am I not eating enough? And I'm like, you're not eating enough protein. Like, oh my gosh.
That's
like,
what it is. Yeah.
Hair should not be falling out. It should be getting like stronger and thicker. Like that's what it did for me. So, but I also like, I focus on protein. Like it's like number one is like, what am I eating for protein? And then I always try and add a veggie with it. And then add in a little bit of like oils or things to go with it. But like number one has always been protein. Like I'd rather eat too much protein. And sometimes I probably do, but honestly, that's like the number one focus. It's almost like I was talking to someone that was like, I think you're doing a carnivore diet. And I was like, okay, like I don't think it's that much different than keto. Like it doesn't matter to me. I just know I put like protein first and then I kind of go down from there.
Yes, totally. And for anybody that's like tuning in, like most women are not eating enough protein. And so like if your hair is falling out, you're not getting enough protein. Your hair and your nails are made out of protein. And collagen is such a fantastic supplement too. If you want to like add collagen protein powder to smoothies, things like that, that's going to really improve your hair and your nails and your skin. And also your joints. Like if you're having any kind of pain or things like that, like it reduces inflammation. So I would say that most of the women that I start working with are probably eating between like 40 and 60 grams of protein, if that, per day. And like, guys, depending upon your height and weight, like the minimum recommended dietary whatever is like probably at least 60 to 80 for most women who are of average height, right? And so we're not even getting enough protein to meet your daily minimum requirements. This is like the requirement to avoid disease in your body. That's like the lower threshold. Like, so I would say, however tall you are, this is for people in the United States, but however tall you are, if you're 5 feet tall, 100 grams of protein. And then for every inch above that, add another 5 grams of protein. So I'm 5'7", like I shoot for like 135 grams of protein. And like some people would think that that's totally crazy, but you know, at least for me, like I'm like not going below 120. That's just what tends to work for me. So protein is queen, you guys. Like if we could convince you of protein, like please, it's going to help you feel full, which is the name of the game with weight loss. It's 0 carb. Like, I mean, you can eat as much as you want of protein. And also you burn calories consuming protein. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Bri. I know you've like nerded out somewhat, but like there's something called the thermic effect of food. And so your body actually burns about 25% of the calories that you're consuming from protein just to break down that protein. And that's why it keeps you fuller longer as well. Like Bri's saying, like she used to be hungry like every 2 hours. You go like 4 or 5 hours without eating. It's because your body's still breaking down the food. Like carbs, it's just like instantly your body breaks that down. It's the simplest form of energy for your body, but protein is the most complex. So you're burning calories doing it, and it's keeping your body busy and full while you're waiting for that protein to digest. So like, oh my gosh, eat more animal protein, unless of course you are avoiding animal protein, in which case eat more plant protein. And I'm going to have a guest on in a couple of weeks who's going to share more with us about that as well. But like, yeah, just get enough protein. That's probably the number one thing that I see people afraid of. So you mentioned like, maybe I did get too much protein. Share with us what you mean about that. I'm sure you've heard it in the keto space, like, oh, if you get too much protein.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that before. People are like, you must be eating too much protein. And then it turns to, what do they say? Is it turned to like,
turns to sugar.
Yeah, it turns to sugar. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, to me, at least from the research I've seen, it's like that's people who are eating like 200 grams of protein, or like really massive amounts. I'm like, okay, I'm not only eating protein. Like there's no way I'm getting to be that much. Like I focus on about 100 grams of protein and then a day. So I guess I could go up a little bit more because I'm 5'6". So I probably should be closer to like 120, 130. But I stick to over 100 grams and like it works for me. It keeps me full. And like, you know, I guess I've never noticed it converting to sugar. And if it is, I guess my body must be burning through it. So like to me, I was always just kind of like, well, okay, you know, to each their own. Like I do agree to an extent that that is the science, but I also think that that might be for people who are eating a ton of protein. Like that's all they eat. And to me, if that was all I ate, then I couldn't eat vegetables and I'd probably be malnourished in other ways. So it's like, no, like I found the right balance of protein to still getting in the nutrients from vegetables. And then at that point, I'm pretty full that I can't add in a bunch of carbs and things like that because, you know, if I'm eating that much protein, then, you know, my body can't eat that much. So.
Yeah. And like, but the funny thing about it is like you mentioned earlier, like somebody said, oh, you must be following a carnivore diet. Well, you know, a carnivore diet is people who only eat animal products. So they're actually avoiding all plants. But these people legit are probably consuming 200 grams of protein a day. And guess what? They're still in ketosis. Like, so how does that make any sense? So that for me, that's where it kind of like gets debunked, but also like every person is individualized. So one of the best things I think that you can do is if you're trying to get into ketosis, one thing that I love about this, if you're a data-driven person or if you're a perfectionist who likes to make sure that you're doing everything right, you can actually test your body to see if you're in ketosis. Did you ever utilize keto testing while you were following low carb? What did you like to do?
I had just those little like urine strips or whatever. I didn't do them super often. I would do it more like if I had a bad weekend or something, then I would eat healthy for about like a day. And then by Tuesday, I would, you know, see if I was in it. And usually I was. Like for me, my body went you know, maybe because I was on it for so long, my body jumps back in pretty quickly. So I don't have to really, you know, it doesn't necessarily take me 72 hours to jump back in. It usually takes about 24 to 48 hours for me. And then once I saw I was in, I was like, okay, cool. And then I didn't really test it too much anymore because I knew if I was still eating healthy, I was probably in it. And then, you know, sometimes if I was going through a stall, because like there was times I stalled for like a month where like I didn't lose any weight. And so I would check it and I was always still in ketosis and, you know, my body felt okay. And I was like, well, obviously my body's just hanging on to the weight. It's okay. Like I'm having that whoosh effect. It'll happen. Like just give it some time. And like, I just, you know, I get frustrated, but I always knew I'm like, I am not consuming extra calories. So I know I'm not gaining weight and there's, you know, no way I'm not losing. So I just got to give it time. And then, you know, all of a sudden I get on the scale and I had lost 5 pounds, you know, in a night. And I know it's just because I was losing. It's just my body was like inflamed and it was hanging onto the water. So, you know, it's just trust the process, you know, it'll happen.
Oh gosh, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because that was going to be one of my questions for you is like, obviously losing 130 pounds on keto, that takes time. You said 15 months. So I'm sure that there were times when like, you know, some people do lose weight steadily, like every week they step on the scale and they're down another 2 to 3 pounds, like clockwork. But, you know, I find that most people fluctuate a lot and that there are a lot of times when you are not seeing progress on the scale. I'm curious about your relationship with the scale. How often did you weigh in?
I would say when I was losing weight, probably 1 to 2 times a week, nothing crazy. But just kind of to see at the beginning, it was almost daily, but mostly because I was learning what my body liked and what it didn't. And I could tell right away with carbs that my body was like holding on to water a lot. And so at the very beginning, I was on it every day. So I could kind of see the changes. And that's how I kind of figured out that bacon was, you know, making me go down. I was like, okay, what's up with this? But I would say, about a week or two, you know, once a week or so. And then as I got closer and closer, then, you know, sometimes I would check more because I was like, oh, I'm so close. Like I got to be getting there. But, you know, it was not just a steady down. Like I have some people I've talked to that are like, oh yeah, like I go down 0.2 and then it's 0.4. And I was like, no, I was like up 1 and then down 2 and then up 1. Like I was constantly like this. And so, you know, it was that mental battle of like, Bri, you did not gain weight. Okay. Like I always had to remind myself that like 1 pound is like 3,500 calories. So I'd always remind myself like, girl, you did not eat an extra 3,500 calories. You're not really up. It's water. Like, and I still have to remind like my boyfriend that sometimes because he'll be like, I'm up 5 pounds. I'm like, you did not eat like 30,000 calories. Like you know, calm down. You didn't. You're fine. Just it's water. Give it a couple days. And then of course he'll lose 5 pounds in 2 days. And I'm like, see, like, you know, you didn't actually lose that. Like it's water. Like it's okay. But that's kind of the science of it too, that I have to remind myself of like, okay, Bri, like, you know, losing weight is math in a sense. So like you got, if you look at the math, you can see like, you know, if you keep eating in that calorie deficit, your body will go down. But I also knew I didn't want to do anything too crazy. Like I was like, I'm not going to eat 800 calories a day or something crazy like that. Like I knew that, you know, by doing what I was doing, I should lose about 1 pound a week, sometimes 2. And sometimes, you know, I felt like I was a slow loser, to be honest. Like people on keto would be like, I lost 15 pounds this month. And I'd be like, I lost 6. And then the next month they'd lose a bunch. And I'd be like, I lost 4. But I just kept reminding myself like, hey, if you're going down, whatever, like, you know, it's fine. As long as I'm still going down, I'm not going to get frustrated that this is taking me a while. Like, I'm just going to, you know, power through and not give up. And that's kind of the main thing. So like, I was definitely one of the slowest losers of like people on Facebook that like I was in groups with and stuff. Like I was not very quick on it, but you know, I just had to not try and get too frustrated with it and, you know, stick with it.
It's so true. I mean, we can get frustrated if we compare our journey to somebody else's, but the point is that you knew where you wanted to get and that you weren't going to give up until you got there, however long it took. And so that's amazing. So what were some of your favorite resources on your keto journey? Did you have any favorite blogs or websites or books or recipe creators or anything?
You know, just Pinterest in general was where I searched for recipes and would try a lot of them. I did get some cookbooks, but I realized that hard copy books were just not really my thing. Like I could look at them, but I really enjoyed having like everything virtual. So that was better for me to just like pin the recipe and go back when I needed it. And then also just Facebook groups that really helped too, just being in those groups and seeing people's, you know, like weight loss journey and kind of, you know, their tips and tricks, what worked for them. Oh, look at this new product, like, you know, just things like that, seeing people's hauls. And I just recently kind of started watching people on Instagram in the last maybe 2 years, following some different people who have done keto and who have done low carb, and just kind of following them and like seeing their food hauls, which is kind of what inspired me to do it. Cause I was like, well, I mean, everyone else is doing it. And, you know, obviously like I took inspiration from them and watching their journey. So like, if there's any chance I could inspire someone else, like I really should, you know, try it and see if I can help other people, you know, and whatever I can do. Like I'm not, and it's funny because I've had people reach out and they'll be like, are you selling anything? Are you selling anything? And I was like, no, I'm just here to inspire. Like I wasn't really going on it to try and like make a bunch of money or anything. Like I was just trying to inspire people and show them. I'm like, I'm just a teacher here, just trying to show people like I'm a regular person. I'm not special. I don't know anything different than you do. Like I'm not a special person, and if I could do it, so can you. Like I'm just hoping people can see like I'm just a normal person and I was able to do it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. And like you say that with such humility, but also like it really does make it feel accessible for anybody that might be tuning in right now. So like if you could give any advice to people who are like about to do day one of keto, and maybe they do have a significant amount of weight to lose, like maybe they do want to lose over 100 pounds like you did, like what kind of advice would you give to them? Like things that they really need to keep top of mind, like, hey, you're probably going to come up against this. Like, here's my advice for you. Like, what would you like to share?
I would say two things. So number one, have small goals. Cause like the big goal of over 100 pounds is like lofty and it's going to take you probably a year, maybe more. So like, it's kind of scary to think about that, but also kind of cool to think like, oh my gosh, in a year from today, I could look completely different. Like how cool is that? But I would say keep small goals, like your first goal of just losing like 10 pounds and see if there's something you can do for yourself. Like I really did make those like goals of like when every time I lost like 20 pounds, I would do something like I get a pedicure or I'd go buy some new makeup or like things like that, just to kind of like spur myself on and kind of treat myself. Especially to like the more you lose, you might need new clothes and you might want to wear makeup now because your confidence has gone up. So it's kind of fun to inspire you as you go. And then the second thing I would say is just really fill your mind with like-minded people and things that really help you. Like for me, it was always, you know, before I went to bed at night, I would always play on my phone. I'd look through the people's Instagrams. I was looking through Pinterest. Like I really just tried to like put myself in that mindset every single day. And that's what really helped, was kind of being in that community and making sure that I was doing it every day. Because if I kind of, you know, was really busy that day and I wasn't really like seeing everyone else's progress, then I might kind of slip. But if I could really keep myself in that community, be talking to people, be looking at Facebook posts, be looking at recipes, and really just keep my mind on it, I felt like that's what helped me kind of just stay on it and not lose, you know, motivation and not lose that consistency factor. So just really staying in it and knowing it's a community and people are there to help you. So like, you know, anyone can message me. I mean, I can try and give you ideas and obviously message you and like be able to just talk to people, because sometimes just asking some questions and, you know, keeping it fresh on your mind is what will help keep you steady and consistent.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that wisdom. And like what you're saying is like totally like backed up by science. Like anybody who's like a habit expert, like they'll tell you like set small achievable goals and then reward yourself, because whatever you reward, you repeat. Your brain loves the dopamine hit of getting rewarded. And I love how you gave some really good examples of like non-food related rewards, because a lot of times I'll be talking to my clients and I'll say, what can you do to celebrate? And they're like, well, normally I just celebrate with food. So I don't know. Like, and I'm like, I'm trying to like, well, what do you like doing? You know, some people like pedicure, some people don't, you know, like, but whatever it is that you like, you would actually find rewarding, go ahead and do that. Because we tend to think like, no, I have to keep pushing myself hard and I'm nowhere near close to where I want to be. 10 pounds is nothing when I have 100 pounds to lose. But like, no, truly, like if you feel rewarded, that's what's actually going to keep inspiring you to keep going. And then the other thing that you talked about, like staying engaged in the community, like really you're probably getting two benefits out of that like habit experts will say, like it's really important to attach this to your identity. And so when you find yourself a part of a tribe of people, that is contributing to like, no, this is my identity now. Like Not that that's all you are, not like in an unhealthy way, like, oh, I'm a low carb person and you're a non-low carb person, so get out of my life. Not like that, but like it is really encouraging to surround yourself with people who are on the same journey as you and to find your tribe, essentially. And then also like looking at other people's success stories and like constantly keeping that front of mind or looking up new recipes, fun things to do, like that is keeping your vision of your future self in the front of your mind. And like a lot of times people will say like, oh man, I don't feel motivated. I don't know what happened to my motivation. Like I heard somebody say once, like motivation is pushing yourself to do something, but inspiration is feeling pulled toward your goal. And like, I love that. That really, really stuck with me. So like, it sounds like you kept your inspiration constantly fueled by looking at other people's success stories and believing that that could be you too. And like, if you do that, you keep your future vision, like even if you're just journaling, you don't want to look at other people, just like write out in your journal, like what you're dreaming of your life to be like, and what this means to you and what you're really going towards. Like, that's going to keep you pulled in the direction of your dreams instead of like feeling like you have to constantly push yourself in this uphill battle. So yeah, this is so good, Bri. Thank you so much for sharing. And so I know that you're here on Instagram, obviously for people tuning in, but for people on the podcast, where can people follow you on Instagram? And then also, are you anywhere else on social media, or do you have like a web presence where people can follow along?
No, just Instagram right now because this is still pretty new for me. So it's at Bri_Hershey, like the candy bar. So you can find me on there. That's kind of where I've been posting, trying to post a couple times a week. And then of course, stories almost every day as I'm maintenance. And obviously it's going to kind of go back into like weight loss mode now, just because I am trying to lose back that like 15 pounds. I let myself fluctuate up. So hoping to do that in January. So that's kind of my next mission. And then actually I'm kind of hoping to maybe put on some muscle. And so that'll be kind of interesting transitioning into that soon, especially too, because from what I've heard, it's less about like calorie deficit. It's more about adding carbs in to fuel your muscles. So that'll be kind of a new thing of like, okay, where is that like range to do? So that's going to be kind of my new journey of figuring out how to do muscle. To be able to just get stronger and all that good stuff. But yeah, so feel free to hang out with me on Instagram. I'm always there. I don't really have anything else. I don't have like really any other kind of web page or podcast. I just started posting end of September. So I've only really been doing this for about 3 months, kind of posting things. So it's all new to me. I'm just kind of going with it and seeing what comes of it, I guess.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm so glad that we were able to connect and, for you to be able to share your story. And thank you so much for inspiring others and just being out there. Like you're just trying to help people for free. I'm sure if people have any questions, they can send you a DM, right? Like if you want to, I'm sure they could pick your brain. So just as we wrap it up, I just wanted to share a couple of free resources with people for anybody that is just getting started on the journey. I have a free Keto Kickstart PDF on my website. It's theketofit.com/free guide. And it's got a keto grocery shopping list to get you started. It's got 47 free recipes. So if you want to check that out. And then also this Instagram live is going to be aired later on my podcast, the Self-Care Keto Podcast. So wherever you listen to podcasts, just search Self-Care Keto and you'll be able to replay this episode and listen to it later if you want to play it again, or if you want to share it with family or friends who weren't able to tune into this live. So spread the good word about Bri's story and make sure that you connect with her on Instagram. Bri, I hope that you have an amazing rest of your Christmas break as you're getting ready to go back to all of your incredibly fun high school students starting in January. So, thank you again so much and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.